gauging the temperature of ordinary moments without announcing its arrival. I stand in line for coffee, answer emails not through meetings, yet behind every mundane rhythm another pattern plays, a secret bossa woven from the ghost of your laugh and the remembered weight of your gaze at night. When the city finally loosens its grip on my attention, I find myself drifting back to that first reckless sway, that subtle leaning of bodies that turn conversation into confession. I tell myself I am over it, that you were only a passing storm. Yet each time music slips into a certain crooked groove. Tightens, recognizing the shoreline where we once stood, pretending we were not already drowning. Then one evening, without warning, I see you again across another dim humming room, framed by new lights, different faces, the same dangerous tilt of your smile. The initial shock crashes through me, sharp and cold, but almost immediately a calmer sensation follows, a strange expanding quiet, as if some long argument inside my bones has finally reached a truce. You walk toward me, each step measured, no longer the wild rising wave that threatened to erase everything in its path, but something gentler, still deep, still powerful, now familiar. When you speak my name, the sound settles in my chest like warm rain, finally finding thirsty ground instead of tearing it open. We talk, we laugh, we leave certain memories between us untouched, letting them sleep beneath the surface where they belong. As the night rolls forward in soft, syncopated circles, I feel my heart move with it, no longer fighting the pull, no longer afraid of the inevitable coming and going. I understand then that some feelings are not meant to vanish, they simply learn how to return more quietly, like the endless forgiving blue breathing against its patient shore. Morning arrives without asking permission, sneaking stepping back on 2, turning away on 3, pretending the pull between us has suddenly forgotten how to count. Yet beneath the polite choreography, a deeper rhythm continues, quieter but insistent, marking the places where your absence will rub raw against my already tender edges. Once the door closes behind you and the room remembers how empty it was before you ever crossed its threshold. In the dim light of the kitchen, away from the curated music, and careful after we finally stop pretending this is only another harmless night among friends. The hum of the refrigerator replaces the band, a low mechanical drone that becomes our private baseline, steady and indifferent to the chaos gathering just beneath my ribs. You stand too close to the sink, hands braced on either side, trapping me between cool metal and the impossible heat pouring off your body. The faint taste of salt lingers on your lips from the last sip of someone else's drink, stolen when you weren't looking, and I suddenly want to chase that flavor back to its hidden source. We speak in fragments now, half sentences and abandoned thoughts, our words dissolving faster than we can finish them as the real conversation shifts to glances breathing the angle of your tilted jaw. Your tongue flicks over your bottom lip, slow and unhurried, a tiny gesture that lands like a drum fill in the quiet, startling and impossible to ignore. I feel myself leaning in before I have consciously decided to move, drawn by a pattern older than restraint, older than reason, older than the version of myself who claimed she could keep this safely playful. When our mouths finally meet, the kiss is not explosive or cinematic. It is slow, deliberate, a thorough sampling of warmth and salt, and the shared shock of finally crossing a line that's been trembling under our feet all evening. Your hand finds the back of my neck, fingers threading into my hair with the certainty of someone who has rehearsed this in dreams, adjusting pressure and angle until our breaths fall into the same crooked rhythm. With each soft clash of teeth, each swallowed sigh, the world outside, the narrow pool of light above the sink recede, leaving only the briny sweetness of your tongue and the endless searching needed awakens in mine.
Couch swallows us whole, its cushions bloom around our hips as if conspiring to press us closer than politeness would ever permit. Someone has dimmed the lamps to a low honey glow, and suddenly every surface looks softer, more inviting, like the edges of the world have been wrapped in velvet, just to see what we will do with the privacy. Your knee nudges mine in a slow repeating pattern that pretends to be accidental, yet each contact arrives with suspicious accuracy on the same sly offbeat. The record spins a lazy bar in friction and erased before they can be read aloud. I watch your mouth form careless jokes, serious confessions disguised as throwaway lines, and I start to recognize the pattern beneath the improvisation, the quiet invitation woven into every syllable. When you lean back and stretch your arm lands along the back of the couch, casual, relaxed, yet somehow encircling me in a new intimate orbit. I slide a fraction of an inch nearer, enough to feel the warmth of your side without quite touching, and the air between our ribs turns dense, electric, alive with unmade choices. Corner of the night, I understand that I am already far from shore, carried by a current made of velvet laughter and the slow, delicious promise of your unfolding hands. Later, when the crowd has thinned and the lights have learned how to be kind, we find ourselves alone by the tall windows, city glitter spreading below like spilled jewelry on dark velvet. Your jacket hangs from your fingers, forgotten, as if your body finally admitted it no longer needs anything between your warmth and the restless evening air. My back rests against cool glass, every tiny vibration from the music inside passing through the pain and into my spine, turning me into an instrument tuned to the nearness of your breathing. You step closer, not quite touching, and the space between us becomes a narrow strip of shoreline where heat and chill meet in a trembling, delicious argument. I can feel your hesitation like a softness on my skin, the way your hand rises, halfway pauses, then drifts back to your side, leaving a ghost print of what might have been when you finally let your knuckles graze the inside of my wrist. The contact is so light it almost doesn't exist, yet my whole body reacts as if a wave has broken over it, foaming, sparkling, receding. You trace an invisible line up my forearm, mapping freckles, veins, the faint shiver that betrays every lie I have ever told about control. The city noise below fades into a low, steady hush, a distant surf that answers the quieter roaring in my ears each time your fingers change direction. I close my eyes not to escape the sight of you, but to feel you more clearly, focusing on texture, temperature, the rhythm of your slow searching strokes. By the time your palm finally rests firmly against my throat, not choking, only claiming a small, fragile kingdom. Every boundary between outside and inside
My skin has become the entire shore where your desire comes to land. The first time your hand finds my waist, the world does not explode. It simply tilts politely but decisively, rearranging every loose object inside my chest, according to some new unspoken law. The room keeps spinning on its usual axis, body swaying in soft bossa circles, glasses clinking, laughter bubbling, yet my private sky realigns itself around the gentle pressure of your fingers through thin, obedient fabric. Your touch is not urgent, not yet. It is exploratory, tracing small syncopated patterns that refuse to land where I expect them. Always choosing the offbeat, the empty space, the place that will surprise me most. I pretend to focus on the melody, humming along to hide the small catches in my breath, but each note dissolves the moment your thumb draws a brighter orbit just above my hip bone. You lean closer to say something ordinary, a harmless observation about the song, the crowd, the weather outside, and your breath spreads warmth along my neck in slow concentric circles that tighten every time the bass hits. I have known attraction before, loud and dramatic like a sudden storm, but this feels different, like a patient tide of wanting that has been rising unnoticed, grain by grain, waiting only for the slight adjustment of distance to reveal its true depth. When I shift my weight toward you, it is a tiny movement, almost imperceptible, yet the response in your grip is immediate, a soft tightening that says you felt it, you wanted it. You were hoping for exactly this surrender. The dance floor shrinks until there is only your chest, my back, the thin ribbon of air between our mouths, charged enough to spark if either of us dares to shorten it. I realize with a dizzy, delighted dread that from this moment on, every step I take will be pulled gently, inevitably, into the steady orbit of your touch. The space between your inhale and your exhale feels wider than the ocean tonight. A charged stillness where anything might be spoken, confessed or silently agreed upon without a single word leaving either of our mouths. We sit too close for strangers and too far for lovers' knees almost touching, hands pretending not to notice the slow magnetic drift that keeps pulling them nearer along the couch. Every small movement becomes a signal, the angle of your ankle, the tilt of your glass, the way your tongue clings to a word before releasing it lazily into the smoky air. The music rides a gentle, syncopated sway, brushes and congas and little electronic flickers that tickle the underside of my thoughts, tempting them to misbehave. When you laugh, the sound lands a little late behind the beat, like you are holding back the first half of it just for yourself. A private rhythm I hate to learn by heart. You ask if I am cold, eyes drifting down my arm, where tiny bumps have already formed, though the room is warm and my drink burns pleasantly in my chest. I say I am fine, of course I am fine, but the word fine fractures on my tongue, splitting into a dozen nervous syllables that scatter across the floor like beads from a broken bracelet. Your hand hovers, then settles, fingers pressing lightly against my wrist in a touch that seems accidental, yet lasts exactly one breath too long to be innocent. In that thin, trembling second, all the nights we refused to name this thing between us come rushing back, washing over the neat stories we told about friendship and timing and better decisions. The moment breaks as someone turns the record over, but the imprint of your fingers remains, a secret coastline marked on my skin, where your hesitant, wandering touch finally met its shore. Your eyes catch mine across the small crowded space, and everything between us liquefies, turning from smoke and chatter into something heavy enough to drag me silently from my seat. I am smiling at someone else, nodding at words I barely hear, yet underneath the polite rhythm of the night, a darker pattern curls around my ankles, coaxing me toward where you wait. Every time you look away, the room brightens, edges sharpen, conversations click back into place. Every time your gaze returns, entire measures drop out, leaving only percussion and the thud of my hungry pulse. You tilt your head, a minor interval of curiosity that lands just off center, breaking my careful balance with one small syncopated gesture. I imagine what moves, no longer falling down, but sideways toward the hollow at your throat, the corner of your mouth, the place where your shirt gapes and the night can slip inside. I feel the floor sway, or maybe that is only my certainty dissolving, each safe thought replaced by a more dangerous chord extension. Dissonant at first, then impossibly sweet once the harmony finally catches up. Someone calls my name, pulling me briefly back to the surface, but your half smile waits like deep water, patient and inevitable. I know that if I let myself sink now, there will be no calm shoreline left untouched by the quiet violence of your beautiful moonlit pool.
You leave the room laughing, but a part of you remains, a warm pressure in the air that bends around my shoulders like you never really moved away at all. Conversation keeps flowing in gentle practiced waves, yet every joke feels hollowed out, as if someone scooped the center and filled it with the aftertaste of your vanished perfume. I try to focus on the glass in my hand, on the condensation drawing slow patterns down my fingers, but even that cold trail curves into your absent silhouette. Each time I think I have found a steady breath, another memory arrives on the offbeat, a flash of your wrist, your crooked smile, the heat that gathered where our knees almost touched. The room's rhythm carries on without you, clinking ice and layered voices tumbling over the drums, but my body moves in a different tempo now, delayed, dragging secretly, waiting for the sound of your returning footsteps. I tell myself this is only a small retreat, a brief receding line on some private shore, yet the space you open keeps widening, turning my chest into a shoreline carved by invisible currents. When someone asks if I am alright, I answer too soon, rushing the downbeat, my voice landing ahead of the bar, exposing the crack between what I feel and what I am willing to confess. I imagine you in the hallway, lean against cool tiles, hand pressed to your mouth as you decide whether come back or let this slow ache evaporate into nothing. Every second stretches thin, snaps and then reforms, another restless swell that rolls through me, dragging shells of old hurts and half-forgotten pleasures up to where they can glitter for a moment before sliding away again. I realize I have started counting silently, not seconds, not breaths, but the empty measures until your shape returns to its rightful place in my unsteady sky.
shadow leans across the room before your body ever moves, and my breathing instantly stumbles, catching on nothing but the memory of last night's rhythm. Your name arrives inside my mouth like a low, delayed echo late to the beat, yet somehow exactly on time, slipping around the downbeats the way moonlight slides around restless water.
I feel you coming closer in tiny syncopated signals. Shoulder, wrist, left, the accidental brush of fabric that lands just off the obvious count. Every glance you throw returns to me, shimmering cycles, a looping phrase that refuses to resolve, tilting my heart towards some unresolved modal hunger. I try to act casual,
Stirring the ice in my glass, but the clinking becomes a metronome, marking the distance between what I say and what I am secretly ready to do.
your fingers drum against the table, soft irregular, a code I cannot fully read, yet somehow already understand, like an old standard reharmonized into something filthy, sweet and new.
When you finally speak my name aloud, the syllables fall between beats, a backdoor entrance that pulls me forward off balance, exactly where I have been aching to stand. The air thickens and thins around us, expanding with each shared silence, contracting whenever we laugh at nothing at all. Under the surface of our harmless talk, something keeps rising, falling, returning, the same feeling, dressed in different clothes, never staying long enough to be safely named.
I pretend to watch the door, the lights, the city outside the window, yet every sense I own hangs from the tiny variations in your voice, the little hesitations before yes, before no.
I know before tonight is over, this pulse will crest again.